sugar, honey iced tea, it's time to tell a tale of how I found a lost episode of the best show ever known from the children's BBC. The show I am talking about, my little darling readers, is Dino Babies. Of course, also known as the reason why my hero, Matthew Bumford, is still alive. If you're living under a ripoff of Patrick Starr's Rock and don't know what Dino Babies is a show about 6 dinosaurs telling stories, running around in circles, or beating up a horse from Ren and Stimpy's show. The main 6 dinosaurs are Truman, the blue nerd dinosaur, that sounds like Squidward, but with a female voice, Labrie, the angry lesbian, Franklin, the Deku Mordorea of the group that always gets beaten up by Labria, Marshall, the baby dinosaur that is adopted by the brother of Franklin, and way cooler than him, Dak the pterodactyl, who loves to smoke weed and is best friends with Roy Rooster, and lastly the gay and immortal Stanley, who is a gay-ass dinosaur with an intense addiction to licking men's feet. He never licks them of women because he thinks they're all smelly and covered in Friar Tuck's super secret crocodile sauce. The children's BBC canceled the show because of the censors that were all a bunch of easily offended eels, and all they had is hatred for poor old Stanley, just because he was gay. Now you might be asking, how I know all of this stuff? Well, reader, I am the long-lost cousin of Fred Wolf himself. He gave me a tape of the entire Dino Baby series for good luck. Sadly, half the episodes were dubbed in Arabic, to which it was one of the countries I am enemies with alongside the UK and Canada, because I had pestered all the mayors of every town and city in those countries about a lost English Dino Babies episode that I haven't found after Fred gave me the tape. He then ran away into the sunset with the Purple Pie Man and one of the old rat from TMNT series. How strange. Oh well, read the tape, I said bluntly as I ran back to my happy house, like a rapscale street kids characters as I walked into my home. I slipped onto the ice cube and got covered in boo-boos. Shortly after I got back up and snapped my fingers, making all my boo-boos disappear. I then put in the tape and it began with the clip of Mung Dal crying like a baby for 5 seconds. This saddened me, as I am in love with him, and then the clip ended with the Arabic intro, which cheered me up because it was actually nice to listen to. The episode began with Franklin going up and down the tree cave, looking very pleased. Hey everyone, I have a great news. Our creator is now the owner of every company in the USA, and all the money will go to Marshall, since he's the reason why I get to eat. Labrie then started to beat up every living crap out of Franklin, while talking about how pretty a wool-mouthed lamb is because they were in love. Stanley laid out a big groan and asked, "Damn, can this day get any worse?" Which resulted in Turman coming towards Stanley with a plate of his hands. "Today, Stanley, you're going to be eating nothing but raisins," Turman said as he kissed the posters of John Arbuckle's Stanley's face, suddenly started to turn red with rage and started to get pissed off like Eddie character, but only with a deep breath. It quickly calmed down, but in a very annoyed tone face. "Can this day get any worse?" he yelled as Dark flew across the trees and cave and started yodeling. But the big mean bubble bass, "That's it! Rampage!" Stanley screamed at the top of his lungs. Then something that made him pull an incredibly cheese face. Stanley then started to beating up everyone, including one of the dragon characters named Puff, who came out of nowhere with steamed hams. After that, Stanley ran out of the tree cave, destroying everything of what he saw. He then ran into Tesco and started jumping everywhere. He hopped into a punch bowl and started angrily hopping on the walls, leaving puddles of red fruit punch all over the place. "It's been one of those days," said Penny Crayon, as she was shaking her hands with Colonel Dodo. They both began to giggle, not caring that Stanley was destroying everything in the sauce section. "I don't think so," yelled Squidward, as he also ran at Stanley with a mop. But we all know Squidward is very unlucky, so he will be missed as Stanley fell into a shelf with Robin Hood VHS tapes on them. They all fell off from the shelves and onto the Luigi, who was shopping for pineapples. Luigi went the violent beating of terror. "Stuff on Main Street's going down!" Gandhi from Clone Heist cried as he threw a shopping cart at Mickey Mice while killing all of them instantly. It caused Tesco to crumble down to the ground, affecting anyone who continued to shop their stuff. It then cuts to Stanley walking to the cul-de-sac in Ed, Ed, and Eddie, where Eddie and Kevin were fighting over Naz's feet pictures on Instagram, while everyone watches while eating the brains of many apes. I guess that's it, what you could do in Canada. Stanley then started to make out with Double D, Ralph, and Jimmy while having very, very gay swell time, which lasted about 10 hours, which disgusted me since they were in a show that was not meant to be NSFW. What was this? An episode made by Animan Studios? After they did that, Stanley then hopped into a portal that leads back to whatever Dino babies live and walks back to the tree cave. As he walks back inside, the other dinos were sitting down, covered in boo-boos. Turnman then started scolding everyone about potatoes and how ungrateful people was for not eating them. That's it. It's time for a Rampage Part 2. Stanley said bluntly as he began to beat up everyone again. He then ran out of the tree cave and then hopped into Garfield's car, and Garfield himself said, "Hey, Stan, my feet smelling buckaroo." Then they drove off into the distance, beat the crap out of Friar Tuck with Principal Skinner. As they got in the Skinner's steamed ham lair, they beat up as many crocodiles since both of them hated the crocodiles more than the cancellation of the angry beavers. They walked into a lair where they were greeted with Colonel Dodo singing the Christmas songs with Ryder and CJ. The two Franks, Miss Piggy and Kermit, Ruby and from Max and Ruby, Scout and Master Lumpus and Slinkman, Guru, Peter, Pissam, and Max, and all the magical hat named the Stupid Dum Dum. Friar Tuck was also tied up and he was screaming like a wild ape angrily. "I'll get revenge!" He cried as everyone started poking fun of him with forks. Suddenly, Mr. Robotic Mech then burst into the room, screaming at everyone to get out of his church. Everyone, including Friar Tuck, shook their heads, smiled, and pulled out their Uno reverse cards, to which it made that fat fuck scream like a little girl and made him run out of the lair, running into his mommy. Stanley and Garfield then looked at each other and smiled and winked before the screen faded to black and the credits rolled. I was very pleased. In fact, I was so too pleased I vomited enough to feed an army of big boof rats. Suddenly, the worst thing never to happen to me happened. Bart Simpson barged into my house and started to eat me. Not even kidding. "I will never get in!" I yelled. "Oh yeah? You will, and you won't have a cow, man." Bart barked and as he ate me, and then the whole world faded to black. And so did the mind of the author of this story. Wow, this one was a pretty funny story, and it was a really interesting story that went from 1 to 100. I have never seen a story just as this funny in a long time. Well, and that, my pretties, was Dino Babies. Stanley's Steamed Hammed Rampage. A Dino Babies lost episode troll pasta. Oh man, this one was just a really interesting one, and it was funny too. Not gonna lie, I had to take a couple reads because of how funny it was. So this story was definitely a story read that I have never seen it, but of course this is the author's first story, and this was written by FixFox. So FixFox, thank you so much for this story. I really highly appreciate you writing this story. This story was very funny. And the fact that Matthew Bumford was mentioned in there, and honestly, this is pretty much one of the stories Matthew Bumford would actually write. But I mean, it was really funny. This story was absolutely fantastic. It was funny too. I had to take a couple of reads before I recorded this because I kept laughing because it was really, really funny. This story was definitely a really funny one, no joke. This one was definitely a funny one. I personally really enjoyed this one. So, I've never heard of Dino Babies, so I'm gonna have to consider checking this one out because it looks pretty interesting. So I'll have to take a look at this store. Well, um, Dino Babies, and I heard it's all in Arabic. So I don't know if there's an English dub of it, but maybe if there is, maybe if you can let me know in the comments, maybe that would be helpful. But I have never heard of this show, so this is definitely a pretty good funny pasta. And speaking of Matthew Bumford, I haven't talked to him or seen him on the channel in a really long time. I really hope he decides to come back though, because come back to this channel, or if he happens to come across this video, I'm hoping to talk to him again because I know it's been a long time since I last chatted with him. But yeah, this definitely was a pretty good story. Now the grammar was pretty good, as well as the sentence structuring and stuff. Although the one thing I have to say was that it was in a big paragraph, so it was confusing for me to read at parts. So if maybe you can have maybe if you could edit a bit just to have maybe a few sentences in each paragraph. I mean, I do that too sometimes. I have a few a few sentences in a paragraph, then I move on to the next one because that way it's just much easier. I mean, if it's jumbled up in the one paragraph, it does make it hard to read. But that's just what I'm saying, and I'm being honest about it. But honestly, it was still a very good story. I still personally thought it was funny. It was a really good story, and it does remind me of the stories Matthew Bumford writes, and I really do hope I get a hold of Matthew Bumford again. Or I really hope that he can come back here, but who really knows, to be honest? It's hard to say. He might decide to come back. But if he does come back to this channel, I really hope he does because I personally really like Matthew Bumford's stories, and this story kind of pretty much reminds me of Matthew Bumford because honestly, Matthew Bumford does a lot of these funny stories. I mean, it reminds me of Matthew Bumford stories, which I definitely have to say it's a really nice change because I haven't and that's not bad for a first story. I mean, it's a troll pasta from what I'm seeing personally. It's a troll pasta. But if you guys want to call it a creepypasta, that's fine. But it's pretty silly. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely a pretty good story. So I will leave a link in the description down below for any of you guys who want to go check out this story. So I will do that. So with that being said, and that being the case, I'm going to sit here and just say this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas or funny pastas. I'm going to call this one a troll pasta because it's pretty much a troll pasta, but it was pretty funny too. Anyways, yeah, I give this story a 10 out of 10. It was a really good funny pasta or troll pasta if you guys want to call it that way. It was funny. FixFox, awesome job. So I gotta really say, this story was definitely a funny one. It's perfect, really well made and funny. I personally enjoyed it. So I guess that being said and that being the case, I'm gonna sit here and just say that this is just my own opinion. Like I said before. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. I want to thank you so much for watching. And I'm the Lion Queen. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I will also tell you guys to, go check out my DeviantArt page if you're interested in following me on there. Also, check out my Twitter account if you want to go follow me on there as well. Also, if you are interested in subscribing to my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, link to that will also be in the About page section of this channel, so you guys can go check it out. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, please roll the outro because I'm out.